turn it into what shape you're looking into, whatever size bowl it is, V bowl, round bowl. Leave it 1.5 inches thick. Like that. This might be about 1.5 inches thick. Then dry it. You want it to be dry. I use one of the moisture meters from Harbor Freight. When it gets to 6%, it'll say 6%. Anything less, it says 0. So a lot of times I'm shooting for 0. I want the wood to be real dry. You don't want the wood to move after the resin's in it, because the resin doesn't move like the wood. It's not organic. So once you get your piece dry to where you want it, down there, you put it back on the lathe. You're going to notice it's not round anymore. So true it round again. Once you have it perfectly true round, look at it, decide what you're going to do with it. This one had a lot of cracks on this side, so I took my Dremel pencil, it hangs from the ceiling like this. I have different bits that I put into it. I opened up the crack. When you do dig into these things, just remember, if it's a ring, you don't want to go through, because you're going to separate your pieces. All right, like on those. You don't want to go through. That's why you leave it 1.5 inches. You go in 1/2 inch, and that's it. You're making a trench. All right, you're digging in a trench. Same thing when you're doing these lines. You're just digging in the trench. Now on the back side, it was perfect. Nice piece of wood, but I decided I wanted to put some holes in it, so I just took out the Forstner bit with a 1/4 inch and just started drilling. Again, none of them went through. None of them. Right? Now that you have your design in it, and I told you before, you can put anything you want. I write the word love in it, I write happy in it, whatever you want. You want to put somebody's name in it, you just draw it out with a pencil, unless you're real good, you know, like doing it by hand, and you just write it, but don't go through. Once you've got all your designs cut into it, here's the fun part. You need to tape it up. All these little lines here need to be taped up. I use the Gorilla Glue. It's a heavy cloth tape, both 1 inch and the 1.5 inch, 2 inch. Once you have it taped up, tape it up again. Tape up the edges. You can take the larger piece and just strip a piece maybe about that wide, just where this ends, just cover that again. Because if it's going to leak, it's going to find a place, you want to stop it. Once it starts to leak, the chances of stopping it are like 10%. If you got the tape already set, like you have a patch, you might be able to stop it. But this stuff, when it gets on there, it's not going to, tape's not going to stop it. So, you got this thing taped up. One of the little secrets that I do to tape it up, and you'll notice on this piece right here, there's like a little thing that sticks out. Well, that was made by one of these little pieces of plastic that I take off of milk cartons. Right? I just use that plastic. The resin doesn't stick to it at all, which makes life easy. And I just, during the taping process, I use this little piece as a funnel, half of a funnel, up against it. This way I can pour the resin in while it's sitting like this. Having done this for almost 7 years now, I've tried different ways. One of the ways I used to pour the rings was like this. And I found that the weight of the resin would sag, and I would have explosions, right? Like a baby's diaper sometimes. I mean, you know, I pour the whole thing, 30 minutes later I come back out of my garage, and it's just, it's all over, all right? I use these things to put it in because you get those explosions. If you turn it this way, you're evening out the pressure, and you don't get, so you get leakage if there's a leak, if there's an opening, but you don't get the explosions. So, you got your design, you tape it up, you tape up the tape, and then you make up your resin. To do your resin, get yourself some gloves, right? Makes life a little bit easier. Get yourself some measuring glasses. I have the A and the B marked. They're marked on the bottom, all right? And you take your engraver and just write on the bottom of the glass, A and B, so you don't mix them up. Because if you do mix them up, you're gonna have hard resin inside your glass. You might as well throw it away. You're never gonna chip it out, okay? And
Now,
these need to be
are
washed
these
out.
glass?
Huh?
Are those glass?
These are glass, all right? These are glass, not plastic, because these two resins don't stick to this. It's all the dust and all the other grime in the air that will stick to it. So drop them into some acetone in a whatever, a can of beans or whatever you have sitting around. Leave them in there for a while, pull it out and clean them. I do that every 2 weeks.
You need to wear gloves with the acetone, I hope.
Yeah, sometimes.
Your liver will thank you.
For wearing the gloves?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. Acetone, wear gloves. So I measure out anywhere from a cup of resin to an ounce of resin. I use a 10-ounce cup to pour the 2 halves into. I will pour what I need. These are marked in ounces and also teaspoons. So usually it's 4 ounces on this one, 4 ounces on that. A and B. I use a company called East Coast Resins. You can use anybody you want, but they've been good to me. Call them up, I get it within a week. You got your 2, you pour them into here. You take your...
You pour it into the plastic cup.
You can pour it into the plastic cup, yeah. It's not going to melt it or nothing. These are fine. I also use little souffle cups, 5 ounce. The size I found was very good. But put the 8 ounces in here. This stick, you can look at it, you can see it's seen a lot of resin in its time. Mix it up, mix it up, mix it up. Try to hold it away from you. Always work with ventilation, because you don't want to breathe this stuff too much. All right, once you've got it mixed up, then I take it, 3 other cups, line them up, take the resin, 2 ounces in each one, 2 ounces here, that gives me 8 ounces. Then you take your colorant. I buy this at a company called Resins Obsession. They're in Gainesville. They got many different types of resin dyes that can be used. This one is their bright, they call it bright orange, bright red, blah, 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 like that. They have 8 colors. And then they have the, like the glow, they don't glow in the dark, they just look like they're glowing. It's a brighter color. And I believe they have 5 colors in this. They also have white, they also have black, a couple drops. Can't tell you how much because it's up to you. Doesn't take too much on a 2 ounce amount. I would say maybe 2 good sized drops, okay, of yellow, purple, a 1/10 of a drop will do 2 ounces. It's just amazing. The aqua is also the teal. The teal is the same way. Certain colors you don't need as much to get that color. Others you do. Orange, yellow. You can mix them with the others. And any color you can find. So once you have the dye in the clear, then you take this stick. This is the stick that can only go into the resin. These 2 sticks are marked A and B, so they only touch resin A or B. One's a hardener, and one is the actual resin that's gonna be used. You mix your colors, get them all mixed, clean them off. Get a paper towel, clean your stick so you don't get colors going from one to the next. Once you've got them all done, then you go over to your area where you have your work laid out on a table. Try to put it on a table that's about 40 inches high. So you're not doing this, all right? You got a bunch of pieces, you want to be able to look right into them because you can't really see the resin. You can only see that little opening. When I poured this one, all right, I poured from the top. So I had this whole thing covered. This one side here, and the openings on the top, that's where I poured the resin. So to pour it, I've got this piece up here, it's sitting on my table about yay high, and I just slowly pour a little green, and a little blue, and a little red, and they're gonna build up, they're gonna mesh together. If it's a ring like this, when it's on its side like this, I'll pour the colors in. I'll leave it at a slight angle so gravity will pull it to the side while I'm pouring. Once I get, say, half the amount in there, I'll take it up in my hands. I'll do a little swish swish so the colors will blend a little bit if that's what I want. If I don't want the colors to blend and I just want it, and I've done bowls like this where I'll go a third one color, and sometimes if it's a big piece, I'll use a piece of this plastic to actually dam it off at a specific point. Tape up to that specific point, fill it, wait for it to harden, come back the next day, and now I have a stopping point already from the previous color. Tape a third more, fill it. Now I've got 2/3 filled with 2 different colors, and then I can do the third one. So any combination you want, you just have to wait for the resin to harden, or you mix them together and you get this rainbow effect on it.
What's your working time? Looks like a decent amount of working time.
It'll, to the touch, 4 to 5 hours. And one thing that's very, very important is temperature. You don't want to do this below 70 degrees, and you don't want to do it above 85. That's what the resin says. So during the months, our winter months, turn that heater on if you're going to do it. I don't have a problem because my heater box is in the same room, and I haven't had that problem. But if you don't do it at the right temperature, if it's too cold, the stuff will be tacky and it won't hold it. You'll pick up your piece and it'll just kind of ooze out. So once you've had it hardened, you pull off all the tape. You might notice that there are some areas that need to be touched up. Now's a good time to do it. You could have just little air bubbles that develop along the edge. Usually right near where the resin was poured. The bubbles will, when I leave it to dry, I'll leave it like this. All right? You can bang it a little bit. You want those air bubbles that you can't see, but you know might be in there to come up. All right? That's when you can touch up the outside. Once you put it back on the lathe for the third time, you want to finish it. I don't care if you find holes in the resin, you don't want to take it off. Every time you take it off, you put it back on someplace else. And now you're going to be taking off wood that you don't want to take off. So put it back on for the third time. Start turning the inside. This is the best example. All right? You'll put it back on. We'll start removing all this wood on the inside. And you know what's going to happen? The resin's going to show up eventually. Once you get down past that 1 inch of wood, you're going to see the resin starting to pop up. A little here, a little there. You have a 1/2 inch of resin or more. So you have something to play with, but not too much. Get your calipers. You want to be checking to see how much wood you got. As soon as you see all the resin, you stop on the inside, take your last cut, all right? Then you go to the outside, probably have a little bit less than a 1/2 inch to play with. Start removing that wood, bring it down to as thin as you want. Sand it, polish it, finish it, take the bottom off, and you're done. That's it.
Did you ever try using a shaker?
I thought of it.
Yeah.
One other thing, I'm in the process of moving my workshop to a studio. I bought a warehouse. So when I do move in, I am the photo box keeper, keep the photo box. I will have it permanently set up in its own little room upstairs. So anybody that wants to come by, take a picture of their piece with the lights, and it really looks nice. There's 2 of them, by the way. We have the big one and the little one. Yeah, there's little junior and big mama. All right, so they'll be permanently set up. I'll give everybody my address, and I'm going to have a open house.
Wine and cheese?
Yes, of course, wine and cheese.
No ribs.
No ribs.
No ribs.
No ribs. I don't do that anymore. Dremel pencil, sander. You sand this stuff and you turn this stuff just like you would wood. All right? You want a sharp tool. You don't want to take too much off. Especially when you're doing the rings like this, you just want to lightly touch it or you'll chatter. All right? And chatter, you'll see them right along. That means you have to remove more plastic. You have a half an inch or more, but it can go away like that real quick. Sanding it, you just hold a piece of 80 grit against it, and you just get it sanded right down. And then you just go, I go 80, 120, 220, 320, 400, and you get it smooth as silk.
And then just an oil finish?
Usually, oil, you can do whatever you want. I mean, poly, you can put poly on. It's not going to bother the resin. It'll either just coat right over the resin. The poly just kind of wipes off because it can't stick to it. I mean, the Howards that I use just wipes off. Poly probably would stick to the resin.
You've not used any other finish other than Howard's, right?
That's all I use. All right?
Have you seen other people that do this use a different finish?
I can't tell you
Okay.
what they use, but I've seen guys that use the turquoise and they put the poly over it, so it's just going to be another coating over the resin. Now, once you start turning the resin on the outside, you're going to find treasures, empty holes. Don't stop. Let's finish it right to the end. If you have any little holes, any defects, take care of it after you've sanded it. Okay? Whatever little defects are there, you'll put in the resin. I use all kinds of tape and dams and little things, and you just have to figure out a way to get the resin into these little holes. Once you get them in there, then you just sand by hand. All right? It's a little bit more work, but you do it. You don't want to put it back on the wood. Believe me, I've done it. It's just, I mean, you can do it. You get lucky. Otherwise, you get that ball that's kicked on one side, put on the other. We've all had it.
So for somebody who wants to try it out, you suggest maybe having larger areas instead of intricacy, just a large area to fill
I would
in?
suggest doing rings. That's how I started. You've seen some of my pieces where I come from the top and I go down. Whatever designs you think of. All right? I mean, if you're real good and you wanted to do, really intricate, fill each dot one at a time with a different color, and it could take you a month to do it. All right? You would get something gorgeous like the Sistine Chapel or something like that, But
So there's
that's what I would love to do myself, but I'm not that.
Is there a
artistic.
funnel, a little funnel for each color?
The little funnel is for each opening.
For each opening?
Each opening.
So each opening, each color?
Whatever you want. If you want to do it all one color, one color. If you want to do 5 colors in a ring, you pour 5 colors in the ring and let them mix together.
So for one color, one funnel?
Yeah, yeah.
So it just flows?
Whatever you want. When I put this thing there like that, all right, that's just helping me, so I don't have to do this.
I think what he's asking, you can pour yellow in that funnel.
I can pour
Then
every
you
color.
switch to blue. on
It's not going to matter. Right. Yeah. The same funnel. If I got 5 colors,
Part of the dam. It's
part
taped
of-
in there. It's
yeah,
not moving.
this comes off. When I pull the tape off, this thing will be sitting on there, and I'll just take my screwdriver, pry it, and poof. After a while, they get all torn up. But
You just
what
quit
they
when
call-
it starts to bubble out the top, it's full.
when it comes off the top, on your first original pour, all right. If you have more than one piece, go to the next one, but go back to it later. This stuff shrinks into itself when it hardens. So you fill up this ring all the way to the top, and you come back tomorrow, it'll be shrunk in. Like, where did it go? All right? But some of it might have seeped into the sides. This one, a little bit, you can see where it seeped into the sides. That's why I say you tape it and tape over the tape. So you let it dry, you come back the next day, pour in some more. That's going to shrink a little bit, usually 3 times. On a big piece, on a small piece, you can do it in 2.
What's the dry time, 24 hours?
Drying time.
They say 8 hours. You can handle it in anywhere from 4 to 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours.
So if you turn it.
Where you can put more on it. Okay? You don't want to put it on and then come back an hour later and put some more on top of it. The chemical reaction causes a heat storm. That's all I can call
Can
it.
you do two of the 3 pours in one day? Say you poured at 9 a.m. You poured some in there.
I've gotten as
Can
many
you go
as
at 3 in
3.
the afternoon and do it
Yeah,
again?
you can go every 4 hours. You can pour.
And it's no different if you wait, if you did it 3 nights in a row or 3 after?
Doesn't matter. Once it's hardened, that's it. It just, but I like to try to get in as quick as I can, so I can get it done. You know?
How long do you wait before you actually turn the piece off? Is it more than-
I usually go about a day or two, you know, but I would go a day or two. Just give it time to dry. It says when you pour it, they only want you to pour a 1/16 of an inch because this stuff is designed for tabletops, all right, and that kind of stuff. So they want you to put layers on and then sand the layer, and then blow it, and then pour another one. So, you know, I'm breaking the rules and I'm pouring a 1/2 inch in here. So I usually give it a 2 days.
Cure time.
How
Before
hot?
you turn it.
Before
How hot does the resin get?
A what?
How hot does the resin get?
The resin gets, I'd say, 180 degrees if you mix it with another batch.
Yeah, it's
If you
thick.
just one batch and the temperature outside is right,
So
it
you've
might
never
get
had
up
a
to, you know,
smoke,
80, 90, whatever.
you've never had a smoking issue?
No, only when I poured them on top of each other.
Only when you
When I
poured it?
poured them on top, like I did a batch, and then I might have had 15 pieces on the table. And then at the last batch, which was an hour and a half from the first pour, I poured some in, and then I noticed it wasn't a good idea. You know, it just got hot, and then, whatever.
What's
So,
the
like I
cost
said,
on the resins?
Huh?
How much does the resin cost?
the resin, 165 plus delivery and tax. The whole thing comes out to about 203 for 4 gallons. That's the cheapest way to buy it. It's about $50 a gallon. You can buy it at Home Depot for $20 for a quart, or whatever. Something like it's cheaper to buy it this way. This way runs about 45 cents an ounce. Now, 80% of what you pour ends on the floor because you're taking it from a 1/2 inch down to 1/8 of an inch or whatever you want to go. David?
I was just wondering if you want to start off with a small batch, could you, I mean, just saying this because people do pen casting, they go buy aluminite or something expensive. Hobby Lobby sells this clear coat, you know, that, like, I think it's $25 or less, for just a small 2 bottle, it's A and B, just like you do. That way you're not spending a lot of money on something that could be.
As I say, you go to Home
not breaking there
Depot,
sits, you know.
they sell the 2 pints
Fine, okay.
at Home Depot, something super glaze, I think they call it. I mean,
Yeah.
you find this stuff with so many different names.
Right.
50/50 is what you want. There's a marine blend, which is 75/25. You can pour that stuff underwater. We're not underwater yet. In 10 years, we will be. But we're lucky, we have wood to
Safety,
float on.
safety.
We have wood to float on, so we'll be all set.
David, do you use a regular gouge turning
Yes,
head?
yes.
Or have you ever tried a negative rake scraper?
I've used everything. This
What
stuff
works the
turns
best?
Everything works good. I use a 3/8 gouge for most of my finishing. It's small enough, large enough, just to grab a little bit. I mean, I can't tell you how to do it except just be gentle with it. You don't want to dig into the resin, all right? It comes off just like silly string. When it's like this, when it's like this, you're going to get sound. All right, click, 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 click every time your tool hits the resin. And most of it's done with the sanding. You want to bring it down with your tool so it's smooth, and then you want to hit it. I usually hit it with a 2-inch air-powered disc with an 80 grit on it. You hit it with that on the outside, brings it down nice and smooth, and then just keep sanding it. You know, like on any piece. If it isn't sanded well, it's not finished.
If, like Dave said, doing a practice run or whatever, buying a small amount, what other dyes can you use?
I have used food coloring, but it fades in the sun.
Okay.
You could try an alcohol ink,
Okay.
all right?
Powders.
Huh?
Have you tried powder guys before? The powder guys.
No. And my thing started with chalk. All right, I was whipping up a batch. The story is I was in Barcelona. All right, I went to the Sagrada Familia. I don't know if anybody had been there. church in Barcelona. Beautiful. They have 2 walls of stained glass, blue on one side, red on the other side, standing in the middle. I just said I could do this in my work. It would be gorgeous. I spent the next 8 days of the vacation trying to figure out how to do it. I could see it, and eventually when I came back, I figured out how to do it. But that's where I got the inspiration. I tried the chalk, gave me nice color. All right, just sidewalk chalk, shave it off, mix it in there. You get a little of the pigmentation, but you get a lot of the chalk. All right. So then I went to food coloring. I mean, if anybody needs food coloring for food, I've got the large bottles, red, blue, green, and yellow. Don't use them anymore, but Easter, all right, I pass it along to all the kids. Then I found this stuff, which I should have done in the first place, gone on the internet and punched in whatever you want, all right? I punched in resin dye and a whole bunch of stuff propagated on there. This company, Obsession is Resin, Resin's Obsession. A little bottle like this, about $8. Lasts and lasts a long time. Long time. Even using a drop or 2 drops, even when the bottle looks like it's empty, you cut it open and the dried dye inside, because some of it will dry, you just take that and mix that in the resin and it dissolves. And hey, you use as much as you can until it's done.
The ring piece you've got there, that's about 4 ounces of
You have to
material.
mix it to make it hard.
You know, that's the toughest thing, is figuring out how much you're going to need in a piece. I would guess each one of these rings is probably about half a cup, yeah. You know, but when you're doing a large piece, there's no way you're going to pour it in one shot. Okay? I've had some pieces where I've poured half a gallon of resin into the piece. You've seen that big 24-inch salad bowls with all the petals coming out of it in the ring. That one took over half a gallon of resin. And like I said, 80% of it's on the floor. Yeah. So if you use your wood chips for flower beds, clean up before you use this, because this stuff does not belong in your flower beds. All right? I mean, eventually the wood is going to say goodbye and go into the ground, but the resin, it's like atomic waste. It goes nowhere. I know. It's everywhere in my garage. Any other questions?
Yeah, you said you checked with a moisture meter, the one from Harvest, right?
Yeah.
When it's down to 6, you find that the wood is then perfectly stable, you don't
Yes.
have an issue with
Yeah.
working afterwards?
Regular lumber that we buy at Home Depot, 9–10%. You buy one of those things and go down to Home Depot and you'll see, just start sticking it in the wood.
But they work well.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, when it breaks, when the battery dies, don't buy a new one. Go to Harbor Freight, and they have this card that has all the little button batteries on it for $3 or $4, and you only need 4 of them in your piece. The other buttons you can just toss into the drawer, because you might never use them unless it's a 30-32. Then the big one. These are the small little ones, fat. You need 4 of them in there. So rather than buying a brand new one for $29, you buy this card of batteries for $4, and you're ready to go.
Actually, if you look for it on sale, it's $13.
Yeah.
And you get a 20% off.
Right, and a free flashlight. Remember that when you go to Harbor Freight, you get the free flashlight.
Safety gear.
Safety gear. Oh, yes, okay. Safety gear. Gloves for your hands. I personally wear a Allegro headgear. It's got a hose, hooks up to my air compressor, which is a high pressure, all right? And all it's doing is pumping in about 7 PSI into a hose. I just bought a new hose and I'm trying to adapt it to my Trend that had the battery and the whole bit and the noise used to drive me nuts. So I'm trying to see if I can adapt it. So I bought the hose. The hose is just a regular hose, but it has a fiber mesh inside of it. I don't like off of a filter, all right, to ballast the air when it's coming in. And it just hooks to the back of the helmet. There's a cloth under your neck, shield in the front, positive air going down so nothing's coming up. You don't want to breathe any kind of wood, all right? Gloves. I always wear a glove anytime I turn. On my left hand, I'm right-handed, I hold the tool. my hand closest to the piece of wood, always wear a glove. When you're playing with this stuff, you want to wear a glove. This is like little shards of glass, especially when it's rough like this, and you get a piece like that, they'll come off, they'll hit you in the face. Well, with me, it's just hitting me in my screen, right? But I can feel them hitting my glove. You want to wear safety there. And if you don't have what I have, just a face shield, not just glasses, right? That's only going to protect your eyes. You got your forehead, you got your face, you got, the rest of the soft skin, and this stuff will.
When you use your air compressor like that, make sure it's oilless.
Oil.
Oilless compressor.
Mine is an oil compressor. I haven't had a problem with it.
So you're running it off your compressor?
Yes.
It doesn't have its own power pack?
No, mine goes right off the compressor. I have 3 hoses coming off my compressor. One's for my blower, the other's for my power tool, and the other one is hooked right up to me.
You don't have a separator on?
No. I keep it very low. And the guy came out, looked at my compressor. He says, "You're one of the lucky ones. You have it's not a Chinese made, put it that way. My cylinders,
Yeah.
were made in the United States." So I've had a problem with it. I've had it for 8 years. And it has oil. I mean, I keep it oiled all the time. But I do have a nice big filter on it.
That's what I'm saying.
On the outside of it, air filter. It's,
Right.
you know, about this big. And then I bought some air freshener, and I hook a little thing of air freshener under it so that the air that I'm breathing smells nice. It doesn't smell
You
like,
should put something else on there.
yeah.
I mean, air freshener.
Air freshener.
Air freshener.
Yeah.
Might come up with some new designs.
Right, exactly. Other tools, these little pieces of
Get them
tongue
from the
compressors.
doctor.
Okay, you get them at the doctor. I forget where I bought a bunch of these. They were like a pack of.
You get them at Michael's?
Yeah, it might have been Michael's or something.
Yeah, I
One
get
of
a
the
box.
places. All right, these are good. I trim the ends down a little bit so they fit what I need. Razor blades, the normal stuff you need to work with the tape. And that's it. If you don't have a Dremel, these are pretty cheap.
Yeah, those are,
All right,
compared to the Fordham.
compared to the Fordham. I go through the cable, say every 5-6 months, but I do a lot of digging. The bits are saber tooth bits. These here, about $15 a piece.
Those are the carbide.
The saber tooth. They've got a ball. They got a Christmas tree, a beveled top, whatever, all different sizes, widths. And other tools that I use are Forstner bits, like I said, for the holes. Also, you've seen some of my work where I have the rings going up and down. Those I use the fluted router. So it's a router that you buy the whole kit. It comes with a router. It's on a little sled. It goes up and down about 3 inches, so you can adjust it where you want it depending on your lathe. Try to keep it in mind. I have an 8-inch center, so I keep it at 8 inches, and you just make your cuts this way, and your rings go this way. So if I wanted to go this way, I would just put it on there. You can use any kind of router bits. I buy that set at Home Depot. It's got 5 different widths, up to I think a 1/2 inch is about the widest I go. If you want to go wider, right? It's real easy. You just my lathe has 48 discs on it, index on it. So if I want to go with a wider cut going up and down, I'll just make sure that the 2 indexes next to each other, how far apart they are, and go with 2 cuts. You want to go wider. But anything you want, whatever you want to cut into these suckers, your name, you got it. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you try this, and you're having a problem, you guys have my phone number. Just call me. I'm there. Thank you. Have fun.
Okay. Let's do the bring back drawing. Bring back.
The last three digits are 344. You got it?
Somebody came in after me. You came in before me, so you did it.
Gosh.
4-4?
Sure can.
Ralph's got something for you.
Really?
Must be.
Oh, okay. Oh, you get one of these too. Pull another ticket.
Last three digits are 347.
Make it.
347.
I got it.
Oh, you got it. Oh, you got Father and Son. Son-in-law.
What is this, Ralph?
What?
What is this?